Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to another episode of the OCast. In this episode here, we're going to recap this doubleheader on Monday night we just watched. First game was Philly at Bucs, and the second game was the Rams at the Bengals. Both of them were fairly decent. They weren't sleepers, but they weren't super exciting at the same time. They were really some real true football fans type games. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Philly at Tampa Bay turned out to be more of a dominating game for Philly. The Buccaneers, they struggled to really put points on the board or to really stay on the field for that matter. They were 50% for third down conversions, 5 for 10. But the real issue is that they only had 12 first downs and they couldn't stay on the field. They were on the field for only 21 minutes. And they also turned over the ball 2 times and they gave up a safety. Their defense is very good, but they're more predicated towards defending the pass rushing, putting pressure on that offense and forcing them to be one-dimensional. But with the fact that Tampa Bay's offense can't sustain long drives, they can't sustain, they can't put consistent points on the board. It's causing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense to be overexerted and be on the field way too long. And it doesn't matter how talented your linebackers are. Eventually, they're going to get worn down. They're going to get tired from a team that's constantly pounding that rock. I mean, Jalen Hurts was 23 for 37 for 277 yards, a touchdown and 2 picks. Those 2 picks usually are backbreakers for a team. But like I said, Tampa Bay struggled to actually put points on the board after the first interception by Philly, which was really a miscommunication between Jalen and DeAndre Swift, the running back. It looks like Swift ran a Texas route out of the backfield, but it seems that Jalen assumed that he was running a curl out of the backfield. And so instead of DeAndre turning directly around for the pass, he cut inside and then looked for the pass. But unfortunately, Jalen was expecting him for the curl, and it turned out to be a straight pass to Devin White, 4'5", my opinion, a top 5 linebacker in the league. But Tampa Bay was only able to get a field goal out on that. And with the other pick, it was closer towards the end of the game, and it was a very impressive interception. Don't get me wrong, a very impressive interception. But it almost kind of sort of put Tampa Bay in a poor position because they were not only needing to put a drive together and put a touchdown together, not a field goal, but they had to start at their own 1-yard line. Really bad territory, and it ended up costing them to get a safety because Rachaad White couldn't get out of the backfield. And that running game and Rachaad White for Tampa Bay, look, Tampa Bay needs to find a new running back, and they need to find one ASAP if they want to make a run at the playoffs, because this gentleman is not getting it done. I don't understand what the thought process was about letting Lenny go, and not Lenny Debo go, Leonard Fournette in this situation, not Debo Samuel, letting Leonard Fournette go and keeping him when the past 2 or 3 seasons when Leonard Fournette and Rachaad White were on the team together, who when they shared the time, Rachaad White was having trouble holding on to the ball. Excuse me, that wasn't Rachaad White. That was the other guy, number 27. Oh, I forgot this guy's name. I forgot his name. I feel terrible. Oh, what is his name? If you remember the running back that I'm talking about for Tampa Bay, who shared the field and shared the backfield touches with Leonard Fournette, number 27. If you remember his name, please remind me in the comments, because I remembered him, but his name, it went away from me just that quick. But I digress. But Rachaad White is really a second-year player, and he's not proving himself. He's not doing a good job. He had 14 carries for 38 yards. And it's not necessarily that, in my opinion, it's not necessarily that Eagles dominated at the line of scrimmage. They only had 2 sacks themselves. And they didn't really have that many quarterback hits. The forced fumble that the Buccaneers lost was by none other than Rachaad White, making a spin in the middle of the field in traffic. And when everybody knows that when you're in traffic, that's not the best time to do any razzle-dazzle, because it's easy for the defenders to come behind you and pop that ball out. And that is exactly what Mr. Jalen Carter did. Another UGA Bulldog. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Another UGA Bulldog making a big-time play. And it's just the beginning of him making big-time plays for his whole career. But back to the Buccaneers in this run game. Not only is Raw White inefficient, but they have nobody else to share the field with him, share the backfield with him. So those 14 carries was it. I believe they finished with a total of 16. One was by Baker Mayfield, and the other was from somebody else who wasn't important because they weren't productive. I believe they only got 2 or 3 yards. Like Tampa Bay, they have to figure out a way to get some production out of their running backs. If they have to sign somebody off the free agency, or if they have to reconfigure their blocking scheme and the way they run the ball, or if they have a backup that we haven't seen yet, give him an opportunity, because White is not getting it done. He's not. But on the contrary, the Eagles, they ran the ball very well. They ran it at a total times 40, and they finished with 201 yards, 5 yards per carry. DeAndre Swift had another mega game, another Bulldog. 16 carries of his own out of that 40 for 130. When your quarterback isn't having a stellar game, which he didn't, Jalen Hurts didn't have great numbers. 23 for 37, 277. That's not outstanding. He can do way better. He didn't really run a lot as well. But when you're able to turn around and hand the ball over to your running backs, and for them to be productive, and then you can hurry and get the other team's offense off the field, that's a recipe for success, even when it's not looking pretty for you. And wins like this is what championship teams are made of. Throughout the season, a team has to be able to get different types of wins, so that when you get to the playoffs, you don't know what situation may arise. Your team doesn't panic, and they know how to handle it. And the only way to get that type of experience, to get your team prepared for that, is through the regular season. Trial and error. 17 games for you to have a buku, tremendous amount of different type of outcomes and situations for your team to handle, and you as a coaching staff have to prepare your team for all these situations so you can get better with this for the rest of the year. Like I said, it wasn't a super exciting game. The Philly, they were finally able to get A.J. Brown going, 9 catches for 131, but at the cost of that, Devontae didn't really have a big game. When they finally figure out how to have both of those guys having big games at the same time, including the running game hitting on all cylinders, look, Philly is going to be a problem, and we all know that. They're definitely going to be, like I said in previous videos, they're definitely going to be in the playoffs, them and Dallas. But, not to harp on this game too long, it really came down to the fact that Philadelphia maintained the ball a hell of a lot longer, 38 minutes compared to 21 minutes. And both of them finished with 2 turnovers. However, Philly capitalized on those turnovers better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. And the running game was very lopsided. You can't win the game when you're not being able to run the ball, and then on top of that, you can't push the ball downfield. 146-yard passing is not going to get it done at all. 174 yards total compared to 472. It looks like a lopsided victory. Tampa Bay is fortunate that the game didn't get uglier than it could have. But I'm actually not upset that they lost. Of course, I'm a Falcons fan, and my Falcons lost. The Saints lost, and now the Buccaneers lost. So back to a 3-way tie like it was at the start of the week when we were all 2-0. Now we're all 2-1, and as I'm definitely happy about that. Now in the second game, the Rams versus the Bengals. Now that was more of a sleeper game. If a lot of people may have cut it off. Only people who probably was watching this game were people who were really diehard football fans, because it really was a field goal fest. The Bengals were able to tough that game out 19-16. The big story of the game is that they were able, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were finally able to get a connection going. Chase finished 12 catches for $141. No, he wasn't able to get into the end zone. And Joe Burrow, ultimately, he didn't throw a touchdown pass the entire game. But 259, 26 for 49. Of course, I'm not a fan of that amount of passes. But a guy like Joe Burrow, he's one of the exceptions for that rule for me. He's definitely going to, take care of the football, even though he did throw one interception. But I believe that interception was off of a tip pass, if I'm not mistaken. No. It wasn't a tip pass. It was an unbelievable play by that DB jumping over the receiver and yanking it out of his hand with one hand and then falling to the ground and still holding on to it. That was just a hell of a play. And Jay Mixon ran the ball 19 times for 65 yards. Now, 65 yards doesn't sound like a lot, but the 19 carries and moving the chains and running physical and hard took its toll. And it works. I'm telling you, it works. You got to stay committed to it, because on the contrary, the Rams only ran the ball 10 times for 38 after they just traded their starting running back, Cam Akers. And now I just don't understand what direction they feel like they're going. They're already without Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford is older. I don't think they should be expecting him to pull the magic that he did in the Super Bowl season. He's not the same player anymore. He's by no means no scrub at all. He's still a very capable quarterback if you give him the right pieces, give him a solid run game, and the defense can hold it down the way that they need to. But all those things aren't necessarily happening right now. The defense wasn't bad. Holding a team to 19 points and primarily field goals, that's a win. Honestly, that your defense kind of, in a way, did their job. In the NFL, that's doing your defense kind of doing their job. But the Rams could not put the ball in the end zone. They were 1 for 4 in the red zone and 1 for 11 on third down. And those are two very, 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 very awful stats to have in a game. Getting to the red zone and not being able to punch it in, that's a major heartbreak. Nobody wants to get in the red zone and have to kick a field goal. Nobody. Even if you're a Madden player and that's just a video game fake life. A lot of times people don't even kick field goals when they're in the red zone. They just go for it because it's like, bro, I'm right here. So, but even worse than that 1 for 11 on third down, that's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And even with that, they still had a chance to win this game. So the Rams, they're a really good team. It really came down to the fact that the Bengals are a disciplined team that stuck with the run, and Joe Burrow didn't really make any major mistakes, and the fact that the Bengals defensive line dominated. They finished with 6 sacks, 7 tackles for a loss. 2 of those sacks were by their best player on the defensive line, Trey Hendrickson. Also had 10 quarterback hits, 2 picks, and 5 pass deflections. That's a very good day by that defense. That defense really won the game for the Bengals, and it's not something that we normally hear, is that the Bengals defense won the game. But like I just got done saying about the past game, your team has to find in multiple ways to win games, because in the playoffs you never know how things are going to turn out. You never know. This was very good for Bengals fans, in my opinion. Joe Burrow looks like he got a little bit of a rhythm. He didn't tweak his injury any bit. But I think, honestly, that the media was kind of using his injury as an excuse. Look, the Bengals were 0-2 last year, and they started 0-2 again this year, but they're going to be fine. Joe Burrow is too good of a quarterback to allow his team to not make the playoffs. He's that good of a quarterback. And the Bengals are that good of a team. He has those 3 receivers. Now they're definitely going to figure it out. Absolutely. The only thing that could hurt them is if Joe Burrow actually re-injures his injury, his calf, I believe, and he's out for the season, and they'll be ending up. Then they'll look like the Jets. Hey, it is what it is. Like I said, it wasn't amazing Monday night, but it was a solid Monday night nonetheless. It really was. Happy for anybody who's a Eagles fan, anybody who's a Bengals fan. We got the job done. Now let's move on to the next week. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very interested to see how these Cowboys bounce back. I'm excited to see that, my boy is going to be overseas in London playing against the Jags. It's going to be a tough game for us. It's a lot more storylines for next week, I'm sure. I can't wait to recap next week games for you and looking forward to it. This Thursday night game is definitely going to be a doozy. I'm looking forward to it. The best Thursday night game thus far between Detroit and Green Bay. It's going to be for the number one spot in that division. And Green Bay looks real good to me. Jordan Love is legit. And we all know that Detroit has been on the uprise for the past couple years, and this is the year that they should make a run at the playoffs. This is their chance to win the division. This is their chance, and I believe they want to take it. And this game this Thursday is going to be a major statement for that, if it's going to happen. I can't wait. Very anxious, and I know you all are too. Thank you for tuning in on another episode of the O-Cast. If you stayed the whole time, let me know which game you looking forward to next week the most. Tell me why. You feel me? That was another episode of the O-Cast.